Whoops. Um, I have something that I want to interrupt our normal working on assignments here for a minute. Um, and I don't do this hardly at all because for a variety of reasons. But we've got so much going on in the world today that's, excuse me, that's so important um, to us individually, to our futures, and everything. But it's also so darn confusing. It's hard to really understand what is going on and how does it affect us individually. And sometimes it's just so overwhelming. It feels like, well, yeah, I know it's important. I know this. I know the presidential election is important. I know that the dealing with COVID is important. I know, a lot of other things, right? But I feel like climate change. There's a good one. Um, all of these things that are out there that are so important and they're so complex and overwhelming that sometimes, in fact, I think maybe most of the time we feel like it's I, I can't do anything. I'm one person, and even if I did have thoughts about it, I, I don't know what I could do to influence it, make a change in it, try to help or anything. It just becomes so overwhelming. And I know also for a fact that some of us feel like because it's so overwhelming, we just choose to shut it out. I can't do anything about it, therefore I'm not going to pay any attention to any of those things. It's just depressing, um, and I can't do anything anyway. So myself, I've thought that whole range and other variations of that. But I think for you guys, you probably feel that even on a more regular basis, and and feel somewhat helpless about what to do. And I don't know if I can tell you what to do. I can give some suggestions what I think you might try, and I want to do a little bit of that today. Because I want to try to point out how it does. Some of these things do affect us individually, and then you can make a choice yourself, what you might want to do or not do, or whatever. But I do think that because I see people your age the most, and I feel that people your age are the group of folks that actually have the potential to make some kind of difference, because it's always been that way. It has always been that way, that when things are important, are come up that need to be relooked at, it's folks your age throughout the generations of the world that are the ones that are strong enough, that that are vocal enough, that do, I don't know, take a stand or whatever. So I want to do a little experiment. Um, could you all open, if you don't already, have your browser open? And I'd like you to do just a little search. Just type in, let's see, let's type in presidential election and do a search from your browser. Okay, and you're going to get a page of a number of things that come up. A number of possible topics related to the search words presidential election. Okay, so I'm giving you guys all a little bit of time here for a second to do that. And again, you're going to get some pages up. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. And oh, this is interesting. Oh, I updated my computer, so all right, I guess I can do that. Yeah. Oh, I don't want to quit. Oh shoot. All right, so I can't do that particular thing right now. I don't want to quit Zoom at the moment. So let's do this. I'm going to ask each one of you, and I'm going to ask what is the top thing in your search that came up? So I'm just going to randomly ask a couple of you, if not all of you. So as I go around the room here, if you could just tell the rest of us, what's the first entry that comes up at the top of your search for presidential elections? Is it Lolly? What does yours say?
It's not even an entry. It's just giving me the date for the presidential election, Tuesday, November 3rd.
Okay, and maybe I'll ask you to say, so what's underneath that?
So the first thing that comes up for a link is Biden versus Trump U.S. presidential election 2020 poll tracker.
Okay, very good. And Madison, what comes up for you?
The same thing.
So you do get the same thing. So, and Matthew, what do you get?
I get the same thing as well.
Okay, this is proving my point. Is not proving my point. Well, we'll see. Taylor, what do you get?
The same thing.
The same thing. Maurice?
It's also the same thing.
Okay, well, this is kind of sounding like we are closer than we think we are in our thoughts, which is kind of unusual. Let's try it a different way, though. Go to your system. Now, this might vary from platform to platform, so I don't know the detailed steps, but I don't think it's hard. The system preferences for whatever browser you're using, if you're using Safari or Firefox or Chrome or whatever, go to your system preferences there, and you should see something, a preference for search. And in that search box, it's currently, you are probably using Google, but you might be using something else. Whatever it is you're using right now, change it to something else. So you should see a dropout selection there of probably Google, Yahoo. I can't remember the other ones that are on there, but you'll probably see a selection. Change it to something else, okay? And then close it and open a new browser window and do the same search. So you're now, if you were using Google before and you're now using Yahoo and you're still doing a search for presidential election, see what comes up this time. So I'm gonna, so Noah, are you getting the same things, or are you getting different things, or same things in a different order, or what came up for you?
So I was previously using a different browser. Now that I'm using Google, I'm seeing the same thing that the others were seeing. I think that might have to do with the fact that I'm logged into my Pacific and I'm using like an incognito browser, because I don't usually like to make it easy for websites to,
Well, that's
have
where I'm
cookies
going.
on.
That's where I'm going with this to a certain degree.
Well,
Okay, so I stopped before I got to you. So you were not seeing what everyone else was seeing a moment ago. Okay. Kalani, what do you see?
So I was on Google at first and I switched over to Bing. And so at first I was seeing what everyone else was seeing. And now that I'm on Bing, I have a whole chart on the polls and predictions and then a different link.
Okay. Jessica, what are you seeing?
So I was on Google and now I switched to Yahoo, and kind of same as Kehlani, there's like a lot of charts that say 2020 election polls, and then they give you videos to watch of coverage. There's like a lot more information. It's not just anymore.
Okay, so this is making my point a little bit here. So obviously, if you've been using the same well, no, obviously if you're using different search engines, they will come up with different links or possibilities for whatever you type in there. But that's not where this stops, and that's not what's the real important issue. Because it's kind of like if you went to one library, you know, I can't, you know, you went to the campus library, you went to downtown library, you went to a library in San Francisco, and you did a search there for graphic design, you're going to get a different collection of books because you're in a different library. It's kind of the same thing. Not exactly, but it's kind of the same thing here digitally. You're using a different browser to find information out there on the same topic. But again, that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is the fact that the browser you were first using is the browser you've been using for a whole bunch of things, not just the presidential election. You've been using it to do school research. You've been using it to find out where you can buy something that you want. You've been looking to perhaps book a vacation or whatever. And we get used to, well, that's the search engine that just kind of works behind the scenes to help us find something. So this is the kicker. I think you know this already, but it's a reminder that that data, the algorithms, the code that's behind you finding those things is being stacked up and creating a profile about you, about your political beliefs, about your preferences for buying things, you know, what kind of music you like. All of that stuff, all of that information is building a profile about you. Therefore, when you do a search about anything, what comes up for you is more custom to your thinking. And when this becomes important is about these issues, like what, you know, we've all heard, well, what's real news, what's fake news, you know, what's a conspiracy theory or not. Well, the algorithm doesn't know that. The algorithm that's behind any of these things can't tell truth from fake. And so it will just put that out there, but it's going to put it out there based on your previous habits that are determined by this algorithm. It is not your choice. And that's the scary thing. So where this becomes the most influential is when it's happening because of our social media habits. So the algorithms behind Facebook and behind Netflix, not Netflix, behind every other version, you know, Twitter, everything else, that's where we tend to be influenced without our knowing it. Because it's gathering that kind of information and figuring it into your other searches. Those social media platforms by themselves are not evil. They aren't the bad guy. The fact is, though, that those open platforms are being used by bad guys, and that's where we're getting all of this other stuff going on. It's why we are the most divided nation right now on all these important things, more so than ever before. It's because that once we're identified as, I don't know, a conservative thinking person, or once we're identified as a liberal thinking person, or we could say conservative or Democrat, or we could say believe in one issue or another, then we're going to get more and more stuff that is in line with that kind of thinking, and we aren't hearing the other side. And this is true on both sides. This is not just the other guys are doing that. They're all doing it. And so we don't get a discourse about any of these issues. We aren't able to make up our own minds. This is scary. And I'm not telling it to you to scare you. I'm telling it to you so that you can choose what you want to do to combat that. And there are various levels. So I'm struggling with this myself. So one of the things that I would strongly suggest that you all do, if you haven't already, is watch the film Social Dilemma. Okay, some of you have seen it, yes? Anybody? A couple of you have. If you haven't, please watch it. It's done quite well. It's very informative. It's talking, basically it's a documentary, but it's talking to the people who developed the codes within all these social media, you know, everything from Amazon to Facebook and Twitter and everything else. And they are talking about how those codes were created for one thing that they do quite well and in a good way, but they have been co-opted by the bad guys, and the bad guys are using it for their own purposes, and we're being affected by it. And we see this happening. I'm sure you've all felt like, well, I don't understand why I used to get, you know, in my feeds information from a lot more people, and I don't seem to hear from them anymore. Or you know, stuff like that. That's the effect of it. And it is why we may have also felt the fact that, well, it seems to me pretty clear about some issue. It seems to be pretty clear we should be doing this. Why does that group of people not get it? Well, it's because not only are they only hearing information that supports their point of view, we're only hearing the things that support our point of view. So we get more and more convinced that we're in the right and that they are in the wrong. And that's the source of this divisiveness. It's a problem. And it's threatening things that we would think were rock solid about living in this country. And so I'm suggesting that you watch this movie, that you can make your own opinions about what they say. It's available on Netflix. I don't know where else it is. I saw it on Netflix. No doubt it's on other platforms as well. That's just happens to be where I saw it. The other thing that so the social media is where most of this belief disbelief stuff is happening. And again, the social media platforms themselves are not the bad guys, but until and they're working. Oh, I should say this: every single one of those people that developed the code have denied the use of any social media to their families. Their kids, they are not letting them use social media at all. So they're not growing up getting used to it. So they understand the power of it, the subliminal power of it, and they don't want their own families. And they're the ones that developed it. I mean, that's pretty strong. And so, but they don't know what to actually do about it yet. Nobody knows that. And so we're left with individually what we might do. And they conclude at the end of the movie talking about, well, here are some things you can do until we get this figured out. And they all have belief that we will get it figured out. So this is not doom and gloom, we're never going to come out of it. No, they feel like we are, but they're working on the problem. So in the meantime, we kind of have to do the best that we can and understand that this is an issue. So some of the things that I think are possible, and they range from what might be most painful to maybe not as painful, but still doing something. So perhaps for most of us, because we're used to it, and you guys grew up with it, with social media, is one would be to completely get off all social media. Well, you know, okay, I can't do that. I can't do that. I can't not be in contact with my friends anymore on that. You know, Oh, I should say this, because the other thing is that besides the good things that social, or the bad things that social media does, there's all sorts of good things that good people are using social media for. For me, I've been able to reconnect with people I haven't seen or talked to for years. I'm an old guy, so we're talking years, long years, and now I get to connect with them again. And that's just incredible. People that live all over the world that I haven't seen, I worked with or grew up with. It's fantastic. All of those things. If I completely decide I don't want to have anything to do with social media and go off that, I'm sacrificing the ease with which I can do those things. That would be gone. I would have to go back to old school ways of doing it, actually writing a letter, actually just calling on the phone. We still have those possibilities, but it would be harder. It's not just a click anymore. So we make this decision. So that's one thing we could do. I'm banning all social media from my life. I'm getting out of it. And then the next kind of thing would be, well, are all social media equally guilty here? And to a certain degree, no. Twitter is the worst because it doesn't take much. 2 seconds, you put a little blurb out there, and that now has people forming an entire opinion about something. And it's just a little snippet as opposed to any real, proven truth or development of thought. So you could decide, well, I'm going to stay on Instagram, but I'm not doing Twitter. So, it could be something like that for you. That could be your decision. A third decision might be this idea of I can't give up social media. I get the point you're making, but I feel like I'm strong enough. I'm not going to be influenced by that. So the next most difficult or easiest thing, I guess, would be to turn off the notifications. So, or be really mindful of which things are coming up as notifications on your computer, on your phone. So, for example, if you're getting notifications every time there's a sale or something on eBay, I'd turn that off. Because what you're getting notifications there, it's influencing your particular buying direction, and you aren't really seeing competition. So I'd really, whatever it is though, I'd look at your notifications and see which ones are coming up all the time, and turn off the ones that you feel might be unduly influencing your thinking. There's other ones, but I don't want to belabor this thing. I guess I think you guys are a powerful group. As a group, not just our class, but I mean your group as an age group. I think that I think from when I have heard what if is that there's a lot of confusion for everyone, but I think there's perhaps the most concentrated amount of confusion for your group. And I get why. Because you want to do the right thing. You're smart enough to be able to do something. You're of an age to be able to do something, but it's so overwhelming. So I think it's worth the fight. I think don't shut yourself off. Do be informed. I think that be aware of the fact that our thinking is influenced subliminally by our habits on social media. And so be careful with that more so. I just wanted to say that this morning. I think it's important for us. Does anybody have any other thoughts they want to add? Is it Lolly? I thought I saw something you had in a chat there.
Can I say something that might help?
Please.
So like I watched that too, and they said that basically like don't click on like the suggested stuff like that pops up. Like if you want to look something up, like type it out yourself and don't like click on suggested stuff because that's how they like get your information.
That's a really good one. Thanks. Yeah. So let's say you don't want to get off those things, or you don't, or you do want to keep getting notifications about sales and stuff. And of course, then they make suggestions about this is the one we think you should go to. And Emily, you're absolutely right. Well, that's where they get you, because then they keep, they keep building that profile based on that. Well, it looks like we guessed right. That is the one she wants because she clicked on it. But if you don't click on it, then the algorithm is going to be confused and not be able to build that very, very specific profile about you, which is the danger here, because it's influencing everything. It's not just influencing your sale preferences on clothing or something. Thanks. Anybody else? Well, there's some nice comments in the chat. If you haven't opened chat, take a look at those. And thanks you guys for putting them in there. Okay, so I need to shift over to graphic design and our assignment more specifically. And the way that I want to make this shift is this idea of talking about a target audience. Because we do talk about target audience, we start to talk about it in this assignment, and I know you've talked about it in other classes. I am 100% rethinking how we use that, even on this assignment. And I haven't gone back in on the assignment itself and rewritten it or anything, but we do need to rethink this idea. In the movie, they talk about the people who developed and monetized the social media platforms. These are the richest companies in the history of the world, the social media companies. Their business plans are A++++ in terms of their ability to return money to those companies. Wow, how are they making money? Doesn't cost me to join Netflix, doesn't cost me anything to, or why do I keep saying Netflix? Doesn't cost me any money to join Twitter. Where are they getting the money? What's the advertising?
Advertising.
Yeah, it's the advertising.
People pay a lot of money for that because you see it. And they can advertise directly to you.
It's that advertising. Those things that are coming up for 5 seconds that we can't wait to scroll through and get by. Well, somehow it's still getting us. It's in our head and we don't even know it. And that's related to this idea of target. We are the product. Our perception of what we want to do, what we want to think, we're the product. And it's making them money. An ungodly amount of money. And that doesn't seem right on the most basic level. That just doesn't seem right. Seems very, I don't know, just sneaky. So this idea of a target audience for advertising has been around for quite some time. And, I began talking about it with you guys in classes normally on this assignment. But the way that target audience and the result of using target audience now isn't dominated by magazine advertising or television advertising to a target audience. It's dominated by social media targeting an audience. And so that business plan that is being applied to social media, which has just gone through the roof in terms of its success, that's the part that's making me rethink the ideas behind target market or targeting an audience. And so I will be changing. I haven't figured out in my head what that means yet. And if, I welcome any thoughts that you might have on that. But just know for this assignment, the target audience thing is not clear. It will be changing in terms of a requirement for the assignment, but right now, don't worry about it. Don't pay attention to that part because it's out of date. Okay. And we will update it, and it may require us to have some more conversations about it. And maybe that is what one of the things I want to give you right now is an assignment for Wednesday. I'd like you to all kind of chip in your comments about how you think the ideas of a target audience or targeting an audience can still be relevant in a positive way. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Okay, so I'd like you to do some thinking about it. You can try to do some research about it, certainly, but it's very, very possible that the research you find out about it is we're in the same boat. Is that yes, we know it's successful. We know that it is a successful tactic. The problem is the ethics behind it. Then that's where we're getting into trouble with it because of its application to social media platforms. So I'm asking you to each think about that. On Wednesday, we'll talk some more. Before I leave that particular side of things, does anybody else have anything right now they'd like to add? Okay, well, thanks for bearing with me on that, my little soapbox this morning. Okay, so maybe let's back up just a bit. I started some of this conversation with Salma before we all joined this morning because she was talking about, she added her other newer versions that she was feeling a lot better about, and I am happy to hear that. And I'm assuming that, well, I already know that a number of you, the rest of you, also did something similar, but and I started to look at those, and then I didn't. Then I stopped, partially because I got caught up in what I was just talking about already this morning, but also partially because we were at various stages of completing that, and it's actually kind of inefficient on my part to just go through some and then have to come back and then come back and forth. So I haven't done that yet. So you have not seen any more recent comments, and that's the reason. My plan is to do that all tomorrow, so you should see some updated comments and everything on that assignment by Wednesday. So for our next assignment, applying this to a logo, I believe I asked you guys to make a choice there on your company out of I think I had 6 choices there, or 6 to choose from, to pick one, or to pick 2, and then to do some thumbnail possibilities for each of them. So let's do a little survey. Can we go around and if you could just say which 2 companies that you decided to pick from. So Megan, who did you pick?
I chose the landscaping and then the home building contractor.
Okay, very good. And Ben?
Home building and the bicycle repair shop.
Okay. Melanie?
I wasn't in class to listen about the assignments. I'm just
Oh,
hearing
I'm sorry.
about it just now.
I'm sorry. Yes. In fact, great that you're able to join us today. That's fantastic. So, okay. Emily?
I did home and media.
Which was the first one?
The home building one.
Oh, the home building one. Yes.
Yeah, and then the media one.
Okay. Great. Especially after what we just got through talking about.
Yeah, I know. I chose that before I watched the documentary.
So you just watched it this weekend?
Yeah, my friend told me to watch it, so I did.
Very good. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, maybe you can solve that issue then.
yeah, hopefully.
Alyssa?
I'm doing the same as Emily.
Okay. Very good. Selma?
Hardware developer and home building.
Okay. Did I say hardware developer?
Is that computer hardware? High-tech computer hardware developer.
Yes. Sorry. I wasn't there. Hatsine?
I did a bicycle repair shop and a media company.
Okay. Jessica?
I did the bicycle repair shop and the home building contractor.
Okay. Noah?
Did landscaping and long haul trucking.
Kalani?
Long haul trucking and the landscape business.
Okay. Maurice?
Sorry. I did the landscaping company and the media.
Okay. Very good. Taylor?
Landscaping and media.
Matthew?
Bicycles and media.
Madison?
The bicycle and the landscaping.
Sitlali?
Landscaping and bike as well.
Okay. I don't believe I skipped anyone, but did I get everybody? Okay. So very interesting, right? I chose those areas because I felt that the kind of logo that I'm asking you to create would be appropriate for any of those kinds of businesses. So you need to know that ahead of time. I don't think that the kind of logo that we're talking about that applies active figure ground to the degree that we're talking about is appropriate for every kind of business. I just, I don't mean that it can't be applied to every kind of business, because I do think that, but I think it's just, it lends itself to some kinds of businesses perhaps a little easier than others. And so by the same token, these aren't the only businesses where you could use create this kind of logo. So we need to just know that ahead of time. Okay, so I guess in my head I was thinking they would be more equally distributed or distributed between all of them, and I was now going to divide you into small groups based on your choices, but that doesn't make any sense. So let's see. Let's see. Let's try this first. Let's talk about the bicycle repair shop one. Could I have a show of hands again for those that's one of your choices? Okay. So, maybe yeah, Matthew, you're in there. Maybe I can do this. So sorry, I need to write this down first.
So I have a quick question. So we chose two, but we're at the end of it, we're only going to have one. So what if we like one more than the other, like doing because we have to pick one, right? Like eventually it's going to be only one.
Yeah, we're basically what we're going to do is take both of them up through. It's more than the beginning stage, but at the second stage, and then you're just going to be able to see which one you'd have more interest in, or seems like it has more visual possibility. It's easier to work with. However you make that choice, I'm going to leave that up to you, or in conversation we can decide that together, and then take that one further. But the possibility is that you like both of them. that both of them are going along in a good direction, and you aren't able to easily decide which one to take further. So then I typically say, well, let's go to the next level with both of them, and see if that helps to flush out the one that has greater possibility. And again, you could go to that stage and decide or feel that, well, I like both of them here too. They both seem like they could be good. So at that point, we just have to pick one, because normally speaking, it's in the interest of time to finish the assignment. If you choose to take both of them all the way through, that's fine. But there is a point where, either because one kind of rises above the other one in your mind as greater possibility, or you just simply pick one, is the normal thing that would happen here. And then it doesn't prevent you from going back to that other one at a later time. Okay, so I'm sorry, I started. So again, the bicycle repair, could you raise your hands again for me? So Madison, Molly, and Hatsine. Okay, so I have Matthew, Jessica, Madison, Hatsine, and Zitlali. Did I miss anybody there? Okay, so I'm going to put you guys. Sorry.
I was also bicycle.
Oh, sorry. So, okay. So, I think what I'm going to do is divide you in half, and we're going to discover what the group that didn't have your hand up. I think that we're still going to have a common one there. So I'm going to divide you into two groups. And then what I'd like you to do in each group is talk about how far you got beyond just choosing this as one of your ideas. And also, most specifically, how have you begun to try and apply active figure ground to a thumbnail? Okay. We will be going forward from the next step of thumbnails now to more finished drawings, I guess, ideas. Okay. All right. So let me try and break you up here in half.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
I might have misheard last Wednesday, but I thought that we were just going as far as the mood board. So I didn't create any thumbnails yet.
Oh, okay.
Same here. I remember that as well. I was wondering about that for a minute.
Yeah, because I wasn't there, but I watched the video, and so I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything, because I think I just took it to the mood board.
That's fine. I guess basically what I'm saying is I want you to share your thoughts about the topic, and you're absolutely right. I didn't direct you to necessarily go to the next stage, but yes, to create the mood board. So if you guys could maybe share some of that with one another about, because that's going to help you have some thoughts about the characteristics of, in this case, the bicycle repair shop, what to go forward with. Thanks. Okay.
Or, oh.
Okay, so you guys probably already got started on this, but in finding out if you have a single shared topic. Have you found that already?
We have some that are more common than others, like landscaping and home, I think,
Hmm.
are pretty common.
But not one that you all have?
No.
So you don't have one that's all. Well, how many people have the home building construction one?
And Alyssa.
4 of you? Okay, so we can divide one more time. Where did I go? See? So that would be Emily, Maurice, Noah.
You said
and
home building, right?
Yeah.
yeah. If I got that right, for home building was Emily, Maurice, Noah, and Ben.
Oh, I don't have the home building. I was just mentioning that was a common one.
Oh, okay.
I have
So
the home building.
who just said that? Megan.
I also have home building.
And that was Alyssa.
Same here, Selma.
And Selma. Well, then it doesn't make sense to divide us up. So we'll stay right here. So we can still do this. Let's take home building, even though it's not for all of us. And share your mood board ideas and what characteristics you were trying to capture with those images. Then, then Taylor and Kalani, if I've got this right, so you aren't, though that wasn't one of your subjects. If you could pick one that you share together between the two of you and do a similar thing. Okay. All right. Noah, do you want to start that with your mood board?
Sure. I don't have the home building though, so it would just be between landscaping or trekking.
Yeah, sorry, you can't start. So maybe Maurice or Emily.
Start.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, but I don't know if I did the mood board right or not, but I was just kind of going with like a modern like stuff.
Okay.
And I chose like the color palettes that I would like to go towards. I don't know if you can see that. And just like houses that I thought was cool, but like I wanted it to be where like my customers, I guess, or my clients get to like design their own, but like uniquely. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. Okay, so I'm going to use your comments as an example. So I do not intend for you to all do this in the same way. However you do it is the right way. So the way you did it is the right way. The way Maurice did it is going to be her right way. The whole point of it is to try and get some kind of images that represent a characteristic that you feel is what's going to be a part of or be a main influence on what your logo is. So let's say that I'm just picking one based on the little bit that you said. That's nice. Is the idea of I could use the word custom.
Okay.
And I could say add even a little bit more of individually customized, or that the customer client has a hand in what it eventually looks like. Okay, so what your mood board should do is now capture in images or colors or typefaces or anything that's visual that seems to be, oh, that's how that characteristic was portrayed for something else. Doesn't have to be about home building, but it's that characteristic.
This is for like our logo then?
Say again?
So like our mood board is going towards like our logo that we're making?
Yes, but it's not, this is the key here. It's the characteristic that you want your logo to express. Let me change the characteristic a little bit. So let's say that my I'm doing a logo for the home building industry or this company. And the characteristic about this company that I want to capture is good construction. Okay, it's well constructed. So that's the characteristic. So now I'm going to go out there and try to find images that make me feel that that thing is well made, it's well constructed. It doesn't have to be about building a house. It could be anything. But something about the look of it makes me feel, oh, that thing must be well made. Okay? And so then the mood board gathers all of that stuff together, and then I will start to get a sense of, oh, if I want to make my company look like the things that they do, and they do it well made, you know, now I will have some visual reference of how to create that feeling. It's about the feeling or the mood. Okay? Okay, I'm gonna skip over to the other group, and then I'll be back and forth. Okay.
Okay, who else wants to share?
Oh, and he's here now.
Well, what do you know?
I got a question. All right, already have a question. We're designing it in black and white first, and then later we can do color, right? Because if it works in black and white.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So, in fact, that's the way we should always design. Is make sure that your design, whether it's a logo or anything else, works in black and white first.
Okay. Okay, just double checking.
Okay, so unless someone else wants to go, I can share the mood board I created if you guys want. Okay,
While you're doing that, maybe since we're starting with the mood boards, and you just asked that question about color, that am I doing something wrong because I am finding colors that go in line with it? No, you're not. No, not at all. You're trying to capture the mood, how it's expressed by for other purposes. You're just trying to capture whatever that mood is and how have they done it. Well, this company did it because of the colors they did. So yes, still get color. Somebody else did it because of their choice of typeface or how they treated type. Grab that guy. Yeah. So.
Okay, let me just. Okay, can anyone see that fine? I'm just on my Pinterest right now, so I figured.
Yeah, it's showing up.
Okay.
Okay.
So I kind of made these mood boards kind of based off of how do I put this? Based on how I answered my questions when I was I actually took the questions that were said on the website and I copy pasted in a Google Doc, and after I was done answering them, I kind of created the mood board based on what I had answered. So like, I guess for example, with the colors, I said when I think for the question of what do you want your customers to feel with this, I said I wanted my customers to feel like they didn't have to worry about like the design or the plan they had in mind for like their yard. Okay, for those people who don't have next to no clue on how to do like design with like yard work in this particular area, I wanted to create like a calm feeling, like a reassuring feeling that they wouldn't have to worry about that for like one half of the group. And on the other hand, for those people who had a plan in mind and who just want like maybe some extra tips or advice, just a quick like a second opinion, I kind of took that into account. So I have some color choices up here. I went with like kind of like these nature, like calming greens, so light blues to create that feeling in terms of like maybe what color I want for the logo. On the other hand, I also have pictures of like the of like some like concepts that people have put up on here, just so like in reference to that idea for those like for like the design process and how it would go, something of that sort. I think I definitely went, because I'm focusing more so on like designing, since that's the focus. I think I took to account like maybe like for a feel of that like paved roads and such, for that cleanliness, despite, you know, with the environment, so to speak, with that.
Nice, Lolly. So a couple little comments I want to make here. So you captured that quality of calming. That's the mood that you want people that got landscaping done from this company to feel calm.
Yeah.
For all of for everyone, whatever you decide the characteristic is, like Lolly has just shown us, now that a step that really helps to clarify how that was done is to find examples of the opposite, so that you have a contrast. So if you're so since all of the ones you found here were landscaping that led to calming, then the opposite would be, well, finding landscaping ones where the end mood is not calming, but it's still good landscaping.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the other comment is, find examples that capture the mood of calming that aren't landscaping. It's in any other and as many other disciplines as you can possibly find.
So it can be outside of landscaping for reference. Okay. I was gonna do that. I think I meant to do that with the other one, but I couldn't quite remember, or if that was something we could do.
Yes.
Like just
well, yeah, it's a good question. And the whole point here is to try and get as much information from this early stage, which is a fairly quick thing to do, right? To get as much information that will help shape the direction that you go from this point on, and you don't end up wasting your time going to the next steps. So what's the point of this again? The point is to find out, how can I create the mood that I want my customers to have? And you said calming. Okay, so I find examples of it that other people have done within the industry that I'm working with, landscaping, but I also find examples of it in other applications that aren't landscaping. And then the other thing that I'm adding here is find the opposite to present a contrast. Contrast will help to clarify.
Okay.
Okay?
Got it.
All right, great start.
Okay, let me see if I can go in. So
okay, I'm going to jump.
I have the other board up. It just exited out.
Okay.
So, or not exit, but it went into like a different browser for some reason. It's been doing that. So I also did bike repair. This one was a little trickier for me, to be honest. I think partly because I'm more partial to the landscaping between the two.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of bike repair, I think I was definitely more specific, which was also sort of helpful. I was trying to go for like, so again, kind of basing off of target audience and what I'm going for here, which is like, I kind of got this idea when I was reading up, I think, different bikes or something like that, where it's like, I want to be a kind of shop that kind of focuses on or specializes in like a certain type of bike. So I went with racing bikes, which when the kind you see in like, you know, like actual racing, you know, people who are all for racing. The idea being for my bike shop would be that like I focus completely on repair, maintenance, you know, assemblies of racing bikes, you know, something that would be specific of my company, I feel would be like, we make sure to be on time with maintenance and be quick as possible, no more than a week, just so that, you know, for those hardcore racers who have to have deadlines for, you know, to enter competition so that their bikes are ready to go. Keeping in mind, like with racing bikes, part of the research I looked up was like, what makes a racing bike a racing bike? And, you know, what I learned being like, they are lightweight, they are built solely for speed. So they're not really made for comfort. You notice like with the seats right here, they're very small. They're not for comfort. They are entirely just so that, you can get as much speed as you want on them.
Okay, so well, you should know the Tour de France is going on right now. It's like in stage 20.
Oh, is it?
So you can check out the latest there.
I was trying to think for a minute, like, what would be considered a race? And I'm like, the Tour de France is the one thing that comes to mind. So I just looked up images for that. I'm
Well, you
surprised
have,
they're still doing it. What with all of this going on, though.
yeah. Well, guys at that level are not going to stop. The Amgen Tour of California is another one you can check out. Most of the other races are not going on now. The way that that you're talking about the bike, because at first my first question is going to be, well, it looks like you only have one type of bicycle here, so you're doing that on purpose, so that's great. Another little tip on this topic would be most bike repair shops that cater to racing also have a mobile unit. In other words, they have a van or panel truck or something that is their shop on the road.
Oh, okay.
And all of these cyclists have more than one bike.
Right.
So they're interchanging. They're like for the Tour de France, you know, they're not riding the same bike on every stage. They ride a different bike depending on if it's a hill climb or if it's a distance.
Oh, so will they change? I take it they'll change based on like the environment, like the terrain and what?
Yeah, and you'll notice they'll change their helmets and everything else.
Okay.
So the point I'm making here is that it's a very, very highly tuned custom kind of business, you know, and so the ability to provide the services that someone that is going to race that fits not only their specific build, but also these very specific types of components for different terrain.
Okay.
Like the cluster, here's one example of that one. So the cluster gear, the rear gear that I thought I saw you had an example towards the top.
Oh, I don't
of your
know.
pin.
So I was just trying to look for like components, I guess.
Yeah. So
like
the one second from the right is the rear gear cluster.
Mm-hmm.
That changes depending upon, they will completely change that out depending upon what kind of terrain. So that's highly, an example of highly customized kind of thing, right?
Okay.
So that is one thing that someone who would be a customer for you would be looking for, the ability to provide very specific customized service and components.
Building these also to customize it even further. And I only know this because my husband does triathlons, but he built his bike specifically for what he was doing. So like people will order crazy expensive parts to build their bike. So it's insane. Like the customization. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely kept that in mind because I knew in my head, because, you know, I was looking at these different bikes and seeing like the differences that kind of made them that bike. So I was keeping in mind, like, you know, this is specifically for racing bikes. So I was definitely keeping that in mind, like these components that I keep in my shop, these are built, and I'm specializing specifically in this type of a bike for this purpose.
Yeah. So now you also have another variation that you can work with here, and that is racing and road touring bikes. So the bikes are similar. They still require a lot of customization, but they are also built with the idea that you can add panniers, or the bags that are on the back and or front, or a biking trailer to do long distance touring. So the customization is still huge. The bikes unless you're a biking aficionado, they would look similar. They don't look like neither of them look like the kind of bike that we would just ride to school or ride around, on Sunday afternoon. It's a bike that looks similar to this. And so that might be another thing to take a look at. And a source of research would be my biking blog. I'm glad at least one of you sees the humor in this. So
if we were going that route of like,
if you happen to be going that route,
if we happen,
yeah, it's Brett's Big Biking Adventure, BBBA, and it's primarily, I did a cross-country bike trip 10 years ago, a solo bike trip, and so it's got all the juicy details about it.
Okay.
And I have links and stuff on there about the history of the bicycle and bicycle buying and all that stuff.
Since we're on this topic, can I share mine?
Yes.
Oh yeah, hang on, let me stop sharing. Okay, you're good.
Because I wanted to, I took a different route with this, and I'll share right now. So because I said my husband does do triathlons, and he was pretty serious, not right now because he's got a knee injury. But because he was really serious about it, and I used to do a lot more running and marathon running, encountered lots of cyclists. I have been in bike shops, including in like San Francisco, and I've always felt they're a little intimidating for people that are like me that don't do that run. And I was always turned off a little bit by the cyclists trying to run by people doing marathons like me, because they wanted to like get through, which I understood. But I was like, oh, but we're running and they're cycling, and I didn't understand it. So that's why I chose this topic too, because I've always made fun of my husband because I'm like, they're causing daily. So I did a different thing, and I wanted to go more for like the route of like the, I guess, more regular everyday person or whatever, but also have those other people that, are really serious about bikes. But I wanted to include more like, I guess, other people. And then I did choose to make a design inspiration because my Pinterest is cluttered with other stuff, and I knew that I would get off track by looking at other things.
Oh, okay.
So I did.
Not just Pinterest.
I will go down a rabbit hole because I have too many other things going on over there. So I did this. I wanted to kind of have, and I'm kind of like torn with the words of it, but like I'm thinking like an urban hipster type of like downtown type of place, like, and I'm thinking Sacramento just because I can kind of familiarize myself with like the Sacramento bike scene. And so I was looking for something that had kind of a different feel to it, more like anybody can kind of go in there. I did also look up some stuff that was kind of like this thing right here, that were, I actually typed in figuring ground design and kind of threw some of those in there too, but then I just put in like bike repair, you know, bike designs and stuff like that. This is another one that came up when I typed in figure ground. So that's kind of what I was looking for. So I went a little bit of a different route, kind of more like a friendly, like everybody can kind of go in there and get bike repair, not just like elite, you know, bike people.
Yeah, no, and I can't remember what I've said with each group, but this stage of the design process is absolutely however you want to do it. It's about, well, what's the best way that I can approach the use of a mood board that's going to be helpful to me.
Yeah.
So whatever's helpful to one person by using it in a particular way is not necessarily the same for all. And it would be counterproductive for me to say, oh, you're doing the mood board wrong. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I was doing it more for like also like, you know, inspiration and kind of throwing that stuff in there. I have to say that I did it a little bit different for my other one, which is the media company. I was doing other stuff that was like media related, but then also figure and ground stuff, because like I put in there like, you know, some figure and ground things, but my other one for media is a little bit different.
Okay, so what I would do is, and this is for all of us, so you all have your mood boards, then what you want to do is ask yourself, okay, from this, is it capturing, are the images that I'm looking at capturing a similar mood between all of them? And if they are, hopefully that's the mood you're originally intending to find examples of. If now though, looking at the images, that mood is not as easy to discover. You know, it seems like, well, there's a, you know, more of, well, in some of them they really do push this, and other ones they kind of look like they're pushing something else, or they're trying to capture a slightly different feeling. And so you're actually at that point doing a little bit of contrast. And so again, I can't remember if I've said this to you guys or not, but you actually, after having done the yeah, I think I did with Sitlali. Yeah, get a contrast. Yeah, so that it'll help you to distinguish which ones are, what are the moods that these images are saying.
Yeah, and I think for me the opposite would be more of like the elite specialized kind of.
Not necessarily.
But then also, I don't know, like I feel like the feeling I'm going for is a little bit different than.
I would agree with you, but you want to be a little bit more specific about what that feeling is.
I'm trying to figure out what that other feeling is.
There you go.
Maybe more like a local shop or like a mom and pop maybe kind of thing. Or maybe not a mom and pop, more so like a locale where you're not really moving around.
But put that in the words of a feeling. What is that feeling?
And what I was gonna do is because I wrote down some of the shops that I actually was gonna use as my like competitors. Both of them are in Sacramento. One of them I have been to. So I was gonna actually like look at the stores and kind of like what's the initial feeling I feel, because it does feel very, I don't know, it feels almost impersonal to me, but that could be because I don't cycle. So
no, I think you're right. You're on the right track right there. So that's so if it's, I absolutely know the feeling you're talking about. I have the same feeling about a lot of cyclists.
Yeah. Well,
is that it's that elitist that gets to be elitism.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's because, like I said, I had a bad experience, and that's another reason why I decided to do this project, because I was like, maybe I'll have a different feeling about it, because I was doing a marathon, and I got really upset because at like mile 15, which is, you know, not the funnest
it's kind of the
part
turning
of it,
point.
I was like, mile 15, these cyclists were also going by, and I was running in Napa, and they said something about, they yelled at the runners going by, and we were in a race, so they weren't racing, we were in a race, and they told us to move out of the way, and I was like, what? But I mean, I think it was kind of like my personal was like, what? These people are being elites. But, you know.
Why were they having a marathon on the same route as a bicycle race?
No, we were having a marathon and they were just cycling by, I don't know.
Oh, well, that's
It was
just
during the
people being
Napa Valley
jerks.
Marathon.
They were just jerks.
So
They
I
had nothing to-
yeah, I understand. I always make fun of it because I'm like, I see them and I'm like, oh man, like, oh. But I
That's
know
too
that not
bad.
everybody's like that. But
Yeah,
when I've
right.
gone inside of, you know,
Yeah,
a
yeah, I think that the more important one. Sorry about my comment there, but I
No.
think the more important idea is you can use previous experience as a way to help define what it is you do want it to be. So let's say that you wanted to create a shop. I'm gonna that was. Well, we can still say this. So let's say that it was a bicycle shop that was geared to the average person, and you don't, and the average person probably doesn't know how the bike works. I have no, I want to know how to pump up the tires, but I just want to go out on a, take a Sunday ride with
Or
my
somebody who's
family
like,
every once in a while. I don't really have any interest in wanting to know any more than that. And so because of it, when I walk into a shop, I don't want to feel like I'm stupid. I don't want to feel like I'm intimidated because I don't know what a cluster gear is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's ridiculous. That doesn't make any sense at all. So you want this bicycle shop, if we talk about this now in a feeling way, it's inviting, it's friendly, it's approachable, it's that kind of feeling that you're trying to get. And so that if the logo is something that looks really high tech, and like you have some examples right here, they almost look like kid drawings of an old bicycle,
I was looking for something that was like nostalgic and kind of like, I don't know.
Well, we don't want to go like that. Example wouldn't work for you, but the style of it is not intimidating.
Yeah.
And that's the part that you can take away from seeing that. Well, okay, if I ask myself, and you can even look at the way the type is treated. Now, could we say that, well, it goes too far? Does it go? It seems like, well, this is a funky bike shop here that I'm not sure they really know what they're doing. It could be that. But again, you're trying to capture the mood. I think you're on the right track. And I need to check in back with the other group, and then I'll come back to you guys, okay? Okay.
I'll stop sharing now.
Okay, I'm gonna quickly intervene. I think we lost somebody.
Uh-oh.
We did.
I think we lost Emily.
She got
Oh,
tired of it.
okay, let me see if
Okay.
Is he here? Oh, there he is. But yeah, what I was saying is, when someone's looking for a specific company and they show up on the first page, that's most likely what they're going to look for. So that's probably going to be the competition that you're going to want to look at when you're designing a brand, something that'll, kind of fit the mood, but also stand out.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
So how have you guys been doing here? Have you been sharing your other mood boards?
Yes, we have finished.
Oh, you have finished. You've gone through everybody. So great. And in doing that, were you able to identify the mood that you were trying to represent with the images on that mood board?
I need improvements for my boards.
Oh, okay. So one of the things that I suggested to the other group, and I don't, excuse me, I'm not sure I did that before I left you guys last time, but is to try to think of the opposite. So let's say that you were trying to get across the idea of well-made or well-constructed or something like that. Well, what's the opposite of that? Something that looks like it's shoddy, something that looks like it's poorly made, something that looks like it's not going to last a long time, or something that was just something that's made for temporary use. It's not necessarily, you know, made poorly. It's just made for only temporary. It's not meant to last. So by trying to find images that do the opposite, that's one way to clarify what it is that you are really trying to do. You know, the most common and what I had you guys do for the first version of Mood Board was to try and directly capture images that portrayed that feeling. Now what I'm saying is that if you have also a mood board that is images of the opposite feeling that what you want, then the two together can help to point out or clarify what it is that is lacking in the one, but is a part of the other, even though they're different images that help to create this feeling that you're after. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's one suggestion. Maybe there's a question here. So did you go through a second topic or just or one topic, one company?
Well, we showed well, each of us just showed like 2 of our mood boards.
Okay. Okay, great. So you've gotten all the way through that. All right. So all right. So I'm probably going to bring us all back together here in just a minute or two then. Yes, Emily?
Can you just clarify the question that you asked us earlier in the bigger group, like for what we're discussing next class? Like where you said the target audience.
Oh, on this assignment, there is a target audience component to it. I need to change that. I don't believe that the way it's written right now, in light of the fact that you would be using that information, or the company would be using that kind of thing and applying that kind of information primarily through social media, because that's the age we live in. And we know that the things that I've written on there, that marketing plan of using a target audience, we know it's successful. The problem is there's no safeguards against it being used inappropriately. And because social media reaches a much, much larger audience than anything else we've got out there, that's where the ethical and moral implications of using target audience information has gone haywire. And so it's not that the idea of a target audience is a bad no, it's in fact it's good. In fact, this is proven it's even better than we thought. But we have to rethink it because of its use on social media. Until that's worked out, we've got to rethink our use of it. And since I am just currently in the midst of this. Really, I mean, I've kind of, little bits and pieces, but that movie really affected me. And so it's made me decide my own use of social media, but also the way that I talk about it to you guys in class. And since I haven't figured out a good way to apply it to what we do in class, I'm simply saying right now, don't worry about that particular part of our assignment.
Oh.
I have a question.
Yes, Selma.
When you said don't worry about it, but wouldn't it affect your design? 'Cause I know, like, for instance, like, let's say we were going towards, like, children. We'd make a design little, friendlier or.
Pause just a second, Selma. I'm hearing something else and it's hard to hear you. I don't know if somebody's running water or something, but ask your question again.
I know you said that, like, kind of leaving the audience part out of it.
Mm-hmm.
However, like, would that affect our design simply by, like, for instance, if we were, it was a children like, kind of targeting, say, children, like, wouldn't the design, be a little, not like necessarily immature, but like being able to be understood by children, or like show that, like, we work with children, or what I'm saying, like, it kind of.
Yeah, I think I do. In fact, your question is helping me to know how I'm going to reword it on the assignment. And that is, it's going to be something to the effect of, well, we have a general audience that we're targeting, but we're not going to go into the details of defining that audience as specifically as I normally would have you do. So in the old days, it was all about doing marketing research and that kind of things, those kinds of things. Nowadays, it's using the analytics that are coming from the background code that is happening through social media advertising. And so it's much more detailed. It's much more in depth than simply saying, well, I'm targeting an audience of kids 8 to 12 years old. It's way deeper than that. And we've never gone as deep as that is because, well, I don't have access to that code. I don't have access to that information. You don't either. But the companies that do run social media do, and they sell that information to advertisers. And that's where the problem is. So for our assignment, I think the way I'm going to change the target audience component of it is saying much more in a general way. Who's this for? So like the other group that's doing some of them are doing the bicycle repair shop. So they might be, their target audience might be bicycle racers. That's their audience. Or it might be families that just do Sunday bike rides around the neighborhood, around the park or something. So that kind of target audience is still fine and something I think you should think about. But going into it deeper than that, we aren't going to do. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, and your example about the kids, if it's a kids audience, are we not doing that? No, you're still doing that, but it's much more, it's not going deeper into it.
Understood.
Okay. All righty, then I think I'm going to try to bring you guys all back together. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to, and you guys can rejoin the big group here on your own, but because that's what I'm going to do right now. Okay. You're laughing at me.
No, I'm
We were just getting to Ben, and then we saw the 60 seconds where Ben was trying to rush through it.
Oh.
we had a
Oh my
very
God,
productive
this is too
talking.
funny.
We got down to the last second of,
Just so he did, but he rushed it through.
He barely got through it.
Good job, Ben. Sorry, you guys were the smaller group. I figured that you were done, and normally I would come back to you and check on that. So I'm
That
sorry.
was like the best speed pitch I've ever heard.
Really,
For real.
Shark Tank wound up a little bit.
Wound up.
How
was
funny.
amazing.
Love it. Well, let's see. Okay, I have one or two more things I want to do with this morning. I'm going to do it this way. Out of your group, was there some concept, some idea about the approach or use of mood boards that you saw, or in your attempt to explain to others what you did? Is there something that became more clear to you about how you want to use a mood board, or how you could use a board? Yeah, could you share that with the rest of us? Madison, I saw you nod your head.
I just was like, it became clear what we had to do because like I just had like an idea of like a bike shop and like a little bit of idea of it, but then looking at the mood board, then I was like, okay, I have more idea, and like I knew that we can have like more of that. I can't say these.
You're doing fine.
No, I'm trying to pronounce the word, but I can't think of
Oh.
how to pronounce it. It's no. Like, it just escaped me. But like, it can have like a unique feel to it and everything. And a specialty, to say.
Okay, very good. Yeah, thanks. Anybody else?
Jessica had a really cool way of like putting her stuff inside of a like artboard, like side by side too, and I thought that was kind of cool because I like the idea of being able to see, like, maybe start in something like either Pinterest or Design Inspiration, but then kind of put it all together in artboard so I can kind of see it all at once.
Jessica, can you share that screen?
Yeah, I'll show you. Let me. Oops. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I just took images from Design Inspiration and Pinterest, and I just copied and pasted them into different artboards. And this is my bike shop one, and this is the home contractor one. But something, when I was explaining this to my group, I realized, like, for example, for the home contracting one, which isn't the one we were even talking about, but I wanted that, like, the company and the logo to kind of be like homey and inviting and like family friendly, and you want to like build a life with your new home kind of deal.
Very good.
And I feel like the only way I really show that in my mood board is by using color. So, because I feel like, and this red is really bold, I'm probably going to tone it down a little bit and add some beiges, which is what Zitlali recommended. But I feel like the only way I'm getting that across is by using like the warmer colors. So I need to figure out how to actually make the design sort of inviting and homey. But that's just something I kind of figured out as I was talking to them about that.
Okay, this is great. There's several things I'd like to comment on here. And since you ended there with a lot about the importance of color, I want to start with that. So it's important that we realize that the characteristic that you want your logo to communicate, that characteristic still needs to come across very strongly in black and white. So if the characteristic is inviting or homey, family, that kind of thing, that characteristic, that feeling has to be communicated through the black and white version of your logo. We're also going to do color versions of your logo. So in this case, we might say that color is, well, we could say that in all cases, that color will take it up a notch, make it even stronger, but without color, it will still work. And this is important for many, many, many reasons. A practical reason is that things that have logos on them, some of them are digital, of course, but some of them are in print. They might be, on any kind of piece of paper for anything. Well, those things many times get copied, photocopied, things like that, that aren't in color. And so there are other issues about what particular colors photocopy across and remain still readable and not. And I'll talk about all that later. But the important part right now is not only for that practical reason, but also just to clarify what's going on within a design. So if I take color out and the meaning isn't still clear, in this case, this idea about family or and that, then the design itself isn't doing what we want it to do, at least as strongly as we want it to do. So by taking color out, it's simplifying the problem to a certain degree. So make the design work without color first, then find the colors that will actually help it. My last comment on the color side of it is it's typically not a single color that makes any feeling happen. It's the combination of two or more colors. It's the color environment that creates a mood or feeling. In fact, it's a color environment that influences on the most simple level whether we like it or not. So if we, some people might say, well, I don't like green. Well, I'd be careful about that because green next to some, I don't know, green next to red says one thing, green next to a lighter green says something else, green next to a beige says something else. So it's that combination that creates the feeling in a particular way, not the single color. And on the most basic level of like and dislike, it's also there. So on yours, in this beginning thing on the mood boards, you can have color as one of the ways to exhibit or capture, illustrate the feeling direction that you want to go. Absolutely do that. But also have things that influence and communicate that aren't based on color. That's my point. Okay? My other thing that I want to comment on is I really, really like the idea of using Pinterest or Design Inspiration to find things as like a search engine kind of thing, and then moving them into a kind of a next level where you can more clearly see what their influences can be. So on the artboards, I think that was a really nice thing to do, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for sharing it with all of us. Does anybody else have something that they got from the from doing that little breakout?
I thought it was cool how I think it was Megan had the typeface in mind. Like, I think that's a really good idea to do.
Did she have several examples of type to try and do that?
I think so.
Did we lose Megan?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, there you are. Sorry, just on my screen here. Do you want to share that for us?
Okay, I need to pull it up again because it's on Pinterest.
Okay.
Just give me 1 second.
Okay.
Should I share my screen again?
Yeah, that'd be good.
I didn't really have much. It was just kind of two typefaces that I had in mind. It was just really these two, but this was the mood board I made on Pinterest.
Okay. So the Sage and the Osra?
I think so. I just searched up typeface on Pinterest, and I was in the middle of selecting some that I thought would go well with the mood I created for my mood board.
What is the mood that you're after?
Well, I really wanted to go something that was like leafy green kind of thing. I'm not really sure how to describe it in words, but if I could see a picture of like exactly what I was going for, I think you might understand. But I was really focusing on like leafy greens, not so much flowers. And then I also had like kind of some palette color ideas. And I thought that these typefaces would work the best to kind of bring like all this into one logo.
Yeah. So you said something there that's kind of at the heart of why a mood board is helpful. You said something like, well, I don't know how to put it into words, but maybe a picture will help. You said something like that, right?
Yeah.
That is the purpose of a mood board.
Mm-hmm.
Because any of these words that we might be struggling with what word it is we want to use, or even if we put a word on it and we've got a word, that word has a lot of different meaning from one person to another.
Mm-hmm.
Perception, right? We've talked a lot about that, and we'll continue. So it's the perception of that word. So someone could say, well, the word, I'm after something that's family oriented. Well, we've got all sorts of feelings from one person to another about what that means. And no doubt there's some overlapping, but if I want to figure out and kind of zone in or focus in on which aspect of family are we talking about here, then the image can help us do that. The typeface can help us do that. The color can help us do that. The arrangement of those things, so forth, right? The style, everything. So the picture helps us to see how other people have tried to portray that same direction, or a direction that is similar to what we are trying to capture. So you said that, like the way that you said leafy greens and stuff is, or, you know, those were the words you were using. You weren't necessarily using mood or feeling words.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say, but you also said I can't put it into words yet. Okay, so I'm using the mood board here to try to discover what is that feeling. So now you can look at these pictures that you were drawn to and picked out, and now you can try to put into words what the feeling is. But you do at some point here do need to put it into a word or two about what and use it. It needs to be a feeling, a mood. Okay, and then go back to the mood board and see if you can focus even more directly on that mood rather than finding pictures that are totally your decision making about it is motivated on a more general kind of thing, like, well, I'm looking for colors, you know, or a leafy green. There's nothing wrong with that. But now we're trying to go to the next level with it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the other thing that I think I suggested to both groups is this idea that once you've got the mood, you are able to put into words the mood or feeling that's the characteristic of your landscaping company you want to have, you know, then try and find the opposite. So the mood, I'm just going to stay on the family thing. So we're going to create landscaping for you that is like, it's going to be good for family. this is going to be something that looks good, but kids can still play, you can still use it that way? Or is it going to be family oriented in the way that, well, we can have family gatherings here? You know, that's what you're going to find out. Okay, but now we have to put it into the feeling word. So what I just said was just the practical use. What is the feeling? So we could say that the feeling might be, well, it's going to be happy, or it's going to be inviting, or I'm going to feel calm, or I'm going to feel, you know, energized. So now I take that word and revisit and add to the mood board a little bit more, with that word being the trigger, the prompt. And then the other suggestion was to find the opposite. So if it's calming, so now I find some things that are the opposite of calming. Maybe it's chaotic, or, you know, it's highly energetic or something. I find those images, and now by the comparison between the two, or the contrast between the two, it'll help to clarify what are the visual elements that are helping me to feel this way or that way. Does that make sense? Okay, so that would be maybe a next step for you here. Oh, sorry, I need to comment on typefaces. So the two typefaces that I'm seeing there are quite different.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're both cool typefaces, no question, but they have quite different feelings. So if you did that to try and create contrast, you've got it there. And that would be just a mini example of what I just got through saying, find contrast, you know, or the opposite feeling. So, I mean, the one on the right, Sage, seems much more formal, elegant, kind of thing. The one on the left is elegant, but very informal and relaxed.
I think that's like, at first I just searched up serifs.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was kind of influenced by my other mood board for home building.
Uh-huh.
And then I saw this one and I thought that something like informal and relaxed would be more accurate to this mood board. So I kind of forgot to like take this one out.
Well, I guess what I'm suggesting is you don't have to take it out, but just know why it's there. If it's there to help me zero in, by contrast, to help me zero in on what I'm really after, then you should keep those. And what Jessica showed us of taking them out of Pinterest and putting them on their own mood boards for the purpose of showing contrast would be a possible. You don't have to do that, but that is something that could work. Or you just have them arranged in a way that, well, these are the ones of contrast, and this is the board that's showing no similarity or something. But otherwise, if I don't see that as contrast, I just see these as typefaces that I like, then it's not going to help you. It'll be confusing about how do I capture the characteristic that I'm after. Okay. All right. Thanks. Does anybody else anything from the rooms?
I was reading the questions that we had to answer, or that we were supposed to answer before doing the mood boards or anything, and I was going over. It's saying like what makes the company unique or makes it different, like for people to pick yours over others. And right now, I'm leaning more towards the landscaping, just because I have more of an idea of where I'm going with that. And what I wanted to do was deal with like woodsy, like mountain landscaping, more like for cabins.
Yeah.
So. But to make it like different, should there be a focus that's not like, I would say, normal? Like for me, I thought like one thing that could stand out was like, if I focus, I know like there's different landscaping companies. So like one like focuses on pools, one focuses on like making like water things in the backyards. So I was thinking like a koi pond, like I've like koi ponds as well. So should there be like a specific focus on the company, or should it be all?
There could be.
Okay.
But let's take one of your examples. Let's say that this landscape company, their practical side of expertise is water features.
Mm-hmm.
So that means they're going to do everything from fountains to koi ponds to little streams to, you know, all sorts of different kinds of water features, to Zen water thing, you know, just little ones. So what you want to do with all of these is get to this point of, well, what's the feeling? So I could be a landscape company that deals in all these water features, but I do it for corporate settings. I do it for malls. I do it for big office buildings. I do it for public installations, you know. Inside and outside of malls is an easy example. Okay, so that's a different kind of feeling that I'm after there, as opposed to single home owner applications of the same kind of water features. I want a fountain in my home. I could want a fountain in the mall. But the actual feeling from both needs to be different. And that's what you want to focus in on. Okay. I don't want a fountain at my home that feels like I'm in a mall. Right? So what is the difference in the feeling? That's what we're trying to figure out.
Okay.
Okay. And so I'm kind of encouraging you to try and find a way to put it into the word where the word is a feeling word. It's not a description of color. It's not a description of the practical thing that it might be. It's a description that is of a feeling that we're after. If I have this thing, if I use this company, I will end up getting a product that's going to make me feel a particular way. It's a let's see. How about this? So I think there's all sorts of restaurants out there. I almost picked a restaurant as one of our topics to choose from, but I decided not to. There are all sorts of restaurants out there that have great food, right? Great food, but the ambiance in where you eat is nothing, right? Have you all been to a place like that? Does something come to mind? I love their food, but geez, eating there, it's like I'm in a cafeteria.
There's places that I felt like had the ambiance, but then the food wasn't good.
And there's the opposite. There is exactly that's so inviting looking, and you go there and the food isn't that great. So there's both. And that would be an example of contrast. So obviously we want both. We want good ambiance and we want good food. And so in this case, we want a good feeling because of the product in the end. And the logo is it's an advanced advertising. It's a signature. It's a thumbprint. It's, you know, that represents that result. And so our task as a designer is to try and, if we were talking to an actual client, then finding out from them, that's those questions that you know I gave you guys to look at. You would have that little interview with them, and you'd find out from them, well, what is it that you want people to feel with using or hiring you, or using your products or hiring you? What do you want them to feel? What do you want their takeaway to be? Do you want them to feel happy? Do you want them to feel calm? Do you want them to feel less stressed? What is it? And so, or do you want them to feel confident in your ability your product's going to last a long time? It's well made, it'll last forever. Or do you want them to feel that, well, if you have any problem, for sure, our customer service is great. You don't have to, you can return it. Yeah, we have a long time warranty. We have all of those things affect a customer's confidence or feeling about a company. You don't want to be forced into going to a company for something because, well, I don't know where else to go, and this is the one that came up in my search. I'm going to try you out, but boy, I can't tell. I hope this works. I hope this is going to be a good thing. You don't want that. You want to go into it that, well, people have picked this company because they have a good feeling about them. And the logo is the designer's part in helping to create that feeling. And the logo is the most basic aspect of what the designer can do to help that feeling happen. Okay, so it's all about the feeling. All right, so is there, I'm going to ask again, is there any other comment anybody had from the breakout group? Okay, so let me, I'm going to share my screen. I want to go to our assignment page, and I want to look at a few things with you. So bear with me a second while I get that. Okay, can you all see my screen? You're okay? You're okay? Nod there for me.
Is it supposed to cut in half?
Sorry?
Is it supposed to cut in half?
Which way is it cut in half?
I don't know. I just see like the top part where it says you working from home.
Yeah, I see
that's
Yeah,
You're not seeing my screen?
only the top part of it.
Yeah.
You
It's a
see
cutoff.
the Zoom and it says new to working from home.
Here are some tips to help you meet like a pro. Discover tips and tricks to get the right setup to look, and then it cuts off from there.
Oh, great.
Maybe just exit and try again.
Tell you what, I don't want to waste your time here today. I think it has to do with the fact that I just updated my my operating system last night, and so this morning, of course, you guys are the first group that I've done Zoom with, and I think it's affecting what I can share, and I think the preferences got changed, and I need to go in and do that, and I don't want to waste your time while I do that. So I think I can just say this on the assignment. There are the things that I mentioned earlier that actually I'd like you to take a look at, and I asked you to do that already, but the branding strategy, 6 steps to define your audience and target audience, all of those things I am going to reword. Okay, so the branding strategy, target audience, 6 steps to define your audience. Do look at them, because again, one of the things I'm asking you to do for next time is I want to continue that discussion a little bit that I started today, and I'd like to hear from you. Okay.
There was one that I didn't, when I clicked on it, the link was broken or didn't go anywhere. But
Oh,
I don't remember
okay.
exactly.
Which one?
I want to say it was one of the target audience ones.
Okay, I'll check those out.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the target
Yeah.
audience ones.
Okay.
I just don't recall exactly at the moment without pulling it back up again to see what it was called, but I know it was target audience.
Okay, I will check that out. So let's see. I want to come down here to where we're at. So I think that from our discussion today on the mood board, I'd like you to also find the opposite. Make sure that you're using a feeling word to define what you have on your mood board, and then some opposite words to also do a visual search. Okay, so you can use those to compare. And you're still doing this for both companies. Then since I'm having you revisit the mood board a bit, then let's do the slogan tagline next. So we're going to stay in the word, not necessarily the thumbnails. I mean, you certainly can go to the thumbnails if you also get the slogans. But I have on the assignment, I have the slogan part listed after the thumbnails, and I'm telling you now to do the slogan tagline part first. So what does this mean? You're going to do the mood board with opposites using feeling word. Then you're going to do the slogan tagline part. It's number 4 on the assignment. So what you're trying to do is create a slogan for your company. And what a slogan or tagline means is it could be just 2 or 3, just 3 words. It could be a phrase, or it could be a short, complete sentence. Any one of those. And to be honest with you, I would try versions of all 3. So you're trying to put into words something that represents the mood that you're after, that you're looking at in your mood board. Okay, the characteristic. All right. If that happens for you fairly quickly, you can certainly start on some thumbnails. Okay. Yes, Madison.
I had all the windows open, and I think it's the one that isn't going is the specific guidelines, because when it goes set, it just goes to this little thing that says page not found.
The Pacific Guidelines one doesn't work either?
I think that's the one they're talking about.
Changed and updated the standard guidelines recently, so they might that link or something. Changed it because of the
got
website
it.
and the new standards.
Okay. Yes, that's probably exactly why. Okay.
I think that's the one they're talking about.
I can find that, and that's a good one to take a look at too. So, because you're familiar with how we see things from Pacific all the time, so it'd be kind of nice to know how the Pacific guidelines are being applied there. Okay. Well, I think that that's all I have for us this morning. So if anybody has anything else that you'd like to visit with me individually, again, please stay on and we can do that. But otherwise, then I will see you on Wednesday. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Okay. Oh, Ben, so did you get my last email back to you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I suggested there was, oh, let me stop the recording.